What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist Josh Cribbs, Cleveland legend. If you want the best Browns content on YouTube, I'm told subscribe to DF Sports. Listen, you got to find out for yourself, but I was told, heard it to the grapevine. DF Sports is the way to go. All right, y'all go check it out. Go Dogs. Hoo, hoo, hoo.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dog Pound Pod. Haven't done one of these in a while. Feels weird. Working on a new intro for it. Probably not done yet by the time you see this, but it is in the works. So anyway, me and Cam are back today and joining us yet again. If you have not seen the first one, go check that out. We talked free agency, and now we bring them back to talk about the draft. The guys from the Cleveland Pulse podcast, Justin and Jeffrey. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We're glad to be back. We're glad to be talking to our boys. You know, we haven't done this in a while, so we're happy to be back at it.
Cam, I'm sure you're doing all right.
Glad to have you back, man. I'm doing great, man.
Hey, I saw that
with Justin and Jeffrey, man.
Hey, I saw you got that heart back in your hair. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, a lot of people have been telling me I should get it. So I'm like, just see what the hype is. So yeah.
Yeah, did you see what happened to me?
Oh, I seen the video, man. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
and that's crazy. I used to go there a couple of times.
I look like Caillou right now.
And actually, the funny part about it is, I got messed up there too.
I'm done. I think I'm not going back there, especially given the fact that me cutting it myself was better than a professional. So, but anyway, we're not here to talk about hair. We're here to talk about the Cleveland Browns draft. So let's just get into it, guys. What did you think about the draft as a whole? I'm sure you're happy, but get into some of your thoughts there.
First off, you can go, Justin.
Sorry, Cal, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's it's always tricky with
first
this.
First off, shout out to the city of Cleveland for hosting a great event. I mean, I think the city did a wonderful job in hosting the NFL draft, and I mean, this is a Browns town, man, Northeast Ohio, man, football, man, and getting to the Browns draft, man, I couldn't have pictured it any better, man, to be honest.
Yeah, going along with that, I mean, it's kind of just unimaginable that we were able to get two first-round talent guys in the first and second round. Something that I feel like Andrew Berry has done very well in the past two drafts that he's been at the helm for. So they did fantastic. I think that there were definitely guys that they got later in the rounds that were, we'll see how they play out and all that. And me and Jeff have already talked about it, but, a lot of these guys are future picks, I think. I don't think a lot of them will have a lot of impact right away. But this is just my general, over analysis on it. So
I'm gonna have to start off by agreeing with Cam here. I think it's just a perfect scenario for the city and for the team of the Browns collectively. I mean, we get extremely lucky to be hosting one of the biggest events since COVID started, biggest outdoor events. We get to showcase the city. We get to see a bunch of people from across the league, different fan bases come to our shores, the shores of Lake Erie. So I thought that was awesome for the city. I think a lot of people have a negative perception of Cleveland, and they've probably never been there, which is, it's kind of normal. If you haven't been to a new place, you might not know a whole lot about it, but I think more people should come and look at it for themselves and make their own judgments. But I thought it was great. I thought we had a great draft, and I just think we're primed and ready in a perfect spot in the AFC. I think we're in the perfect spot. We shouldn't be, the number one overall rated team, but we're definitely not at the bottom like we used to be. We're creeping up toward the top, and we're in a nice, spot where I feel like people still might sleep on us, but everybody knows that we have a lot of talent.
Yeah, Justin, you talked about two first-round talents in the first and second round. Let's go ahead and jump into that. First of all, the 26th pick, we stayed. There was a lot of people who thought, I thought personally it was more likely we moved up, given the fact that we needed to address certain positions. And I felt like corner specifically. I felt like if there was a guy they had identified, they were going to move up. They didn't. They had plenty of options at 26, and I think the two favorites for any Browns fan probably was Greg Newsome and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think that was 1 and 2 on most people's boards. The Browns get Greg Newsom first. We'll get into him. I love the pick. I absolutely love the pick. Go ahead,
I
Cam.
think that's sweet that you can say his last name because I can't say his last name at all.
Who? JOK?
Yeah.
It's not that hard. You gotta get used to it now
It's
that
a
he's on the
tongue twister.
team.
Man, I looked at it, I tried to pronounce it, and I'm like, Ola. I'm like, oh, yeah, forget it.
Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Just practice it. You'll get it.
I can't say that. You're gonna have to send the recording.
Cam's gonna be calling him Woo for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, Greg Newsom, I think he's going to be a starter personally. My guess would be that based off of his college numbers, and I know we talked about this in our little group chat we have or whatever, and I just saw the actual numbers. I wish I had them in front of me, but Greg Newsom played inside maybe like 6 to 8 times each year. So that's not like through his whole college career, but each year he played mostly outside, but he does have traits to translate inside. Some people think he's strictly outside. I think this is a great pick because he's so versatile. I personally think he's going to start. I think you're going to see him and Ward on the outside, and then Troy Hill play that nickel spot that he's best at when they do go with 3 corners. But best part about this whole thing is the versatility. So what'd you guys think about the Greg Newsom pick? Go ahead, start with Cam, and then we'll go the way we did before.
I really didn't watch a lot of Greg Newsom for real in college. I did get a chance to see him against Ohio State where he was an animal. And from what I've seen him do to Ohio State, I mean, you got future first round pick receivers and Olave and Wilson and all those guys. I like what I've seen, and I just hope that it can translate to the NFL. And it was a couple questions about injuries, but I mean, you really can't speculate that. You just gotta wait and see. So I'm excited about the pick.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. For me though, it's tough to really argue that he might be the second cornerback on our roster, mainly because I just continue to make the argument that you go out and you sign Troy Hill not to be a slot cornerback, not to slot cornerback money. And I also just think that, it's kind of like it's the same thing for a lot of rookies, depending on where you're drafted. Honestly, some of you guys just need to take a back role and learn the system. The way that training camp has been the past 2 years, well, going into this year being the second with COVID, they're not going to have OTAs. The Browns have opted out of that, and that takes time away from those rookies in order to learn the playbook and everything and kind of get used to the system. And also I just, we did it with Greedy Williams. He was injured to start, I think, the first 2 games of his rookie season, but as soon as he came back, he was the starting outside corner, and he didn't play bad, but I also think that it's just better to kind of ease those guys into the system. He's a great player. Greg Newsom's a great player. Like Cam said, he played amazing against top tier guys that will come out next year from Ohio State and everything. But, Jeff had an excellent point. I'll let him explain it about the statistics of his 3rd and 4th down percentage, but he's definitely going to be out there on 3rd down. But my thing with the pick in general is it makes me wonder, him and Grant Delpit, who's going to be that guy in the 4-2-5 defense, who's going to be the one that's starting and everything. So I think it's really interesting, and training camp needs to kind of get here so we can see that stuff play out.
Yeah, Justin took the words right out of my mouth. I got a couple points with Greg Newsom. One, like Cam said, he played exceptional against that stellar Ohio State offense. That's where I think he started to turn my head. I know a lot of people obviously had him scouted on their radar long before that, but when you lock down on, guys on Ohio State like Cam was talking about, that can't go unnoticed. Number 2, I think that it's a proactive pick in the sense where you kind of have to look toward next offseason. Everybody as a Browns fan hopes that you could retain, Denzel, Ward, Baker Mayfield, and Nick Chubb, obviously. But is that a huge reality? Is that like a guaranteed reality? Absolutely not. So I think if anybody, is the Browns are willing to part ways with based off of this draft, it's going to be a defensive player like Denzel Ward. So that's kind of where my head was with that pick. And then, like Justin said, allowed a 0 passer rating in college on 3rd and 4th down in his last season. That was what the Browns struggled with the most, getting off the field on 3rd down, making sure that teams don't come back from us having a huge lead. How many huge leads did we make it like nail biters at the end last year because our defense couldn't get a stop, couldn't get off the field.
Tennessee.
Yeah, a bunch of games. I mean,
And
even that Ravens game, we should have had a stop to win. We shouldn't have let be Justin Tucker kicking that field goal. But I kind of like where Justin's head at is with Greg Newsome, just because I think, just looking at the depth wise, last year we have, rookie Robert Jackson coming off the bench to be a cornerback. Now we have Greg Newsome. So it makes a lot of sense for him to, sit behind guys, but he'll definitely have an impact role.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with me that nobody's really talking about, I think Denzel Ward and Greg Newsom have a lot of similarities. I think both of them have really great footwork, really fluid hips. I think Newsom can learn a lot from Denzel. You know what I mean? Because when Denzel first started, you saw clips in camp and you were like, whoa, like we knew he was good, but like he looks great next level. I think you're going to see some of the same things. And even though Denzel Ward is such a young player, I think there's similarities. Newsom's going to be able to learn so much from Denzel Ward. I'm pumped. I cannot wait to see him develop and step into his role. He's still really, really young, and he's got a bright future. So let's start with our second pick. Listen, y'all got a ton of nicknames. I've said it. I'm calling him the Joker. I'm calling him the Joker because, like I said, just like the Joker, you think you know what he's doing, and you walk right into his trap, and you're dead. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is about as close to that on a football field as you can get. I think he's going to be an absolute Ravens killer. I think he's going to haunt Lamar Jackson. Not that he won't haunt everybody else, but I think specifically when the Browns play the Ravens, they're going to be able to say, hey, you see number 28 here now that's what he's wearing. Keep an eye on him because he's gonna be in your nightmares for a long time. I think this is a great pick. We know why he slid. Potential heart issue was cleared. But I think the main reason why he slid was people didn't know how to use him. So a lot of teams was like, well, we can use the heart as an excuse. So he slips to 52. The Browns snag him. What do you guys think starting with Cam again?
Well, first off, thank you to the rest of the NFL for passing up on this guy, and and like you said earlier, man, this guy is gonna be a stud. I can already see it. You know how you can see the attitude of somebody when they walk in the building, and you already know, like, oh, that's the guy. I can see it now, and I mean, it's gonna be funny, man. How we tell the story. Yeah, we got this guy in this um second round, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was funny how we got this guy in the second round, and he's a Pro Bowler, all blah blah blah, all that. I mean, I just, I was just shocked when we took him, and I couldn't be more happier.
Yeah, going off of that, obviously, I don't know that anyone knew it outside of Jeff. I don't know how many videos I probably talked about it in, but everyone who was around me personally, like family-wise, we have a group message. This dude was my pick at 26. At 26, when the board was up, when we were up, having Greg Newsom there was awesome, and I definitely was happy with the pick of Greg Newsom. I understood the pick. But part of me wanted to trade immediately, like into the second round, at the start of the second round, to go get this guy. I thought that, he reminds me so much of a player from last year. And Derek, you talked about it in your video. He reminds me of Isaiah Simmons.
Yep.
And the problem with what happened with Isaiah Simmons was the expectations and the setting for where he was drafted in Arizona was not ideal to how, they just ended up not using him right. But he's a dude that he reminds you of Jamal Adams and all these other guys that are super versatile and can do so many different things for you. And that's exactly what JOK is for you. And he comes into a defense that was so poor last year, had no third down linebacker who could cover anyone. We watched it in that final play of the Kansas City game. Yeah. We watched it in so many other games where our guys would just give up third downs, 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 15s. Quarterbacks, Derek Carr ran for like 16 yards for a first down on 3rd down. It happens so often.
For 14 yards, man.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And to watch that happen so many times, and then to hear Derek say he's basically going to be a spy. He can be a spy on guys that you watch, and you watch that Ravens game, you watch it over. Lamar starts scrambling, and our corners just come flying up and leaving dudes wide open. If you have a spy and you tell your corners, you tell your safeties, do not come off your guy for any reason. We have this guy specifically chasing. It's singled down to one player. And I think JOK can fit that bill. I think he steps into an immediate role. I think he's an immediate starter on this defense. He's right next to Anthony Walker. Anthony Walker talks him up and everything. Third downs are going to be
polished than Isaiah Simmons. Honestly, I think when you compare both tape or both highlights, I think is a lot more polished for the next level.
And if you guys look at it in previous years, when have the Browns ever had a fast, athletic linebacker like this before?
I really like Jacob Phillips. I think he's a really good middle linebacker, but he just doesn't compare to JOK in the sense of what he did coverage-wise. I mean, JOK in Notre Dame would straight up go and guard guys in the slot, wide receivers in the slot. And yeah, is he a little small? He's 6'1", 219 pounds. Sure, but I don't think people know that strong safeties are built smaller than that and still come and lay the wood. We had Carl Joseph, who I think should have played a little bit of what JOK will end up playing this next season. But honestly, if you can't tell from how much I'm talking about him, I love the pick. At some point, I'm going to wait until training camp for it to happen. I told Jeff, I'm going to get his jersey. I just got to make sure that he sticks with 28 because after training camp, sometimes guys get cut and other guys pick their numbers up. But I'm excited for him. I love the pick. It's great value. Trading up to 52, you didn't have to move too far. He fell so far down that we didn't have to move up too much. It was a great value. It's the best pick of the draft.
I just do not know how you let this guy slide. On the surface of it, it made, zero sense to me. Hearing about the heart problem come out after the fact, I would agree that could scare you away if you're a GM. Being medically induced into retirement, that's something that you have to take seriously, but inevitably, from what I heard, you knock on wood that he's cleared, he's going to be fine. It's not going to be an issue. With all that out of the way, stellar pick. I think that he's just so versatile. I think that's the biggest talking point with him. He's going to be able to be that linebacker that you want, that you need to cover Travis Kelce's of the world, to cover now Eric Ebrons and Pat Freiermuths that, Pittsburgh's going to be having out there, and potentially 2 tight end sets. And people are getting away from, the traditional old school linebacker, your Ray Lewis's and your Brian Urlachers. Those, you don't want linebackers like that anymore. You want guys like JOK who could be a versatile weapon for you. Now, I think we got to rein it back in a little bit as far as, overarching expectations, because one, we're going to see how good Joe Woods actually is. And 2, I still think you have to give Joe Woods a little wiggle room, because if I had to bet money on if our defense is going to start the season stellar, lights out, I would say we're not. I think September is going to be slow, and I think hopefully not too much of October, but the first couple weeks of October are going to be slow. We have a huge amount of turnover, so many new guys, and so many options could lead to people being out of place. Joe Woods not knowing where to put people on every play. There's going to have to be a lot of upfront scouting, and there's going to have to be a lot of upfront film if we want our defense to instantly click. I don't see it being a top 5 defense the first 8 weeks of the year. I really don't. I think it's actually going to be mirrored of how our offense was this past season, how we were now a little bit shaky the first 8 weeks, and then we just turned it on and started clicking on all cylinders. If we could get to that point 7 or 8 weeks into the season, primed for and be ready for a playoff push, hopefully healthy, that's going to be unbelievable.
If I can just piggyback off of that really quick, Derek, it reminds me of the Tampa Bay team from last year. New coach, everything. You're trying to set up a system with a defensive coordinator and all that, Todd Bowles. But like Jeff said, I mean, we're probably going to start off a little shaky, and people are going to be worried. But, it's just going to be like our offense from last year. And then you hope if it turns out like it did for Tampa Bay, you'll be seeing a very good playoff run from the Browns.
Yeah, so let's get into some of these later picks, and a lot of these names people won't know unless your name's Tommy Togiai and you happen to live in the state of Ohio. But anyway, this next pick was the pick I think I was most, maybe not frustrated is the right word, but confused about, because the pick of Anthony Schwartz, to me, my concern is, and people have been all over me about this, and I really don't care. I've come down on him a little bit. I'm starting to get it because I see his work and I see his commitment. And he's a great dude, great guy, good heart. He's fully committed to football. My problem is, to me, there were some guys, and Justin, it was either Justin or Jeff, really loved Dyami Brown. And that was the guy. Yep. That was the guy I was like, okay, listen, Rondale Moore's probably going to be gone. Some of these higher options will probably be gone. I'm going to move up to make sure I get him. Washington, to me, just did the same thing they did with Terry McLaurin. You get a steal in the third round. So this pick to me was like, now, okay, you're getting a guy who's blazing fast. Yes, great. But now his route running is not great. That's what he's working on. But to me, I think his hands aren't great. I guess my concern is I wanted to come out of this draft with somebody I could feel good about long-term as a potential Landry or Beckham replacement. I don't feel good about Anthony Schwartz long-term. Now, I hope he proves me wrong, and I've said that countless times. I'm rooting for him, but I'm just a little bit concerned with some of the things I've seen from him in college. So let's go the opposite way. Let's start with Jeff. Do you think I'm crazy with that?
I don't think you're crazy. I'm going to give a generic response to that, which is pretty, I think it's, it's pretty lazy for me, but it just is something that comes across my mind. You can't teach speed, is in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So he's going to work around great route runners, your Jarvis Landrys, and he's going to learn from guys who were rookies last year. He's going to learn from Donovan Peoples-Joneses who aren't as fast. I think he's our specific nuanced archetype of wide receiver that everybody knew we were missing and that Andrew Berry knew we were missing. I agree with you on the sense that people don't understand that, it sounds goofy saying, but you have to be able to catch the ball to be a wide receiver. And everyone, if they get drafted, they could catch. It's not the case. We've seen it before. I mean, I might as well make a Braylon Edwards fan account at this point, because I bring him up in every video, because Braylon Edwards was a star coming out of college. He couldn't catch. If you can't catch, I mean, we see it in Pittsburgh. Everybody thinks Deontay Johnson's going to be a stud. If he cannot catch, he's not going to be a stud. If you can't catch in between the lines when the lights are on you, sorry. But I think that he gives us, some of the jet sweeps that you like, Derek. He gives us options there. There's going to be good competition. There's going to be good, fun competition in kick returning and punt returning, which is cool, because we were very bad at that last year, especially when JoJo Natson got hurt.
Yeah. But do you think Natson's gone? Do you think Natson's gone?
Justin thinks so. I think that's a little optimistic. So. I think he might work his way back onto the team. I like JoJo Natson. I might be totally off base with that. But I think that if you could get Anthony Schwartz as a decent route runner and decent hands, if that guy's on the field, you cannot stack the box against us. That's plain and simple. He's the versatility to our offense that we saw so much with our defensive draft picks that he brings to the offensive side of the ball, I think.
I don't mean to jump in I do mean, what am I saying? I do mean to jump in real quick. I don't mean to cut you off, but I will say this, and I'll let you answer this. I heard comparisons to Mecole Hardman. He's not the greatest route runner. He's not the greatest receiver necessarily, but he brings a unique aspect to where he doesn't have to be that great of a polished receiver. Now, I think Mecole Hardman's way ahead of Schwartz, in my opinion. But
I don't
what do you think about that?
In here, but I don't mean to rebut in because it's Justin's turn. I'm taking up a little time here, but this is where, and I feel like I don't know how Cam feels about Baker, but I feel like I'm definitely the most critical person on Baker Mayfield on this call right now. And Mecole Hardman, obviously you're talking about Patrick Mahomes there, but Patrick Mahomes makes Mecole Hardman an above average wide receiver. Yeah. If we see a huge, even bigger leap from Baker Mayfield this year, Anthony Schwartz, Baker could make him an above average wide receiver, actually put up huge numbers if he's just running loose all over the field. So I think that has a lot to do with Baker's progression and how good he's going to make. I thought Baker Mayfield did a great job with Donovan Peoples-Jones last year, of course, with Kevin Stefanski, but let's continue that trend.
Yeah, so for me, Derek, honestly, I'm fully on board with everything that you were saying in terms of he's super raw in every category other than his speed. And for me, that pick was not anything about the wide receiving core. I don't expect to see him on the field in that wide receiver rotation. I mean, if you think about it, you got Hodge, you got Beckham, you got Jarvis, you got Higgins, you got DPJ, 5 people already. You don't even see that many receivers actually get actively rotated through a wide receiver group. And that's why I said that he is strictly a punt return, kick return guy. And that's why I don't have him graded very highly. And let me, when we're talking about comparisons, let me just tell you, I saw an absurd one of someone saying something about Tyreek Hill and this dude because of their speed. And I absolutely wanted to like flip out and lose it. There's
I've
no
heard
comparison
Devontae
there.
Smith. I've heard Devontae Smith. No,
it's not how that works. It's not how that works. Like you guys were saying, wide receivers have to be able to catch the ball. There is a reason that he slipped. And he not even slipped. I honestly think that he was drafted way higher than I think he was ever going to be. And the Browns have this thing though, going back to the JoJo Natson comment, they really, really want a good kick returner, punt returner. That's why they brought JoJo Natson back after last year, after he tore his ACL. DPJ tried his best. The one thing I give him credit for in the kick return game was that he never really went out of bounds. He kind of went just straight ahead and tried to make something happen, but
he took a lot of hits.
He took so many hits, so many times I was worried either he's going to get rocked and fumble or get rocked and have a concussion, something. Dearness Johnson came in and tried to do a better job. I honestly just don't think that Schwartz is going to end up being in that wide receiving group, and I don't think he's going to do a lot in terms of the future of being in that wide receiver group. So I see that. I understand the animosity. I don't have a ton of it for him because I thought that pick was strictly for kick return and punt returns.
Cam, what do you think about that pick?
I really thought it was to address the special teams like we were talking about earlier. I mean, really didn't watch too much of Auburn for real, so really didn't know about the guy, but I see he's fast, so I like him.
They had them pretty highly scouted, if I'm just recalling correctly. It was one of the consistent names that I saw when it came to the Browns and who they were scouting in that group of players. And I heard his name at least twice or 3 times compared to other wide receivers. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, they certainly singled out the type of receiver they wanted, and I have no problem with that. My problem is just I think there was much better options, and especially like, man, you're telling me like if it was me and you said, hey, we'll swap thirds and a 5th round pick to get Dommy Brown, I don't care. I couldn't care less. Do it. So that's just one of the things that frustrates me. Trying to keep it going here. Let's talk about some of these other guys. Let's go with these 2 at a time. Hudson Taco out of Cincinnati. I thought it was a really good pick. I was kind of that was a bad stutter. I was kind of disappointed that this pick wasn't the guy who's next, but I get what they're doing here. I think this guy really, when you looked at the Georgia versus Cincinnati game, once Hudson went out, that's kind of when they took over. And guess who he was going up against? Azeez Ojulari, guy who we were super high on and we thought the world of. So I think, he proved he can hold his own then. He's got a ton of potential, ton of upside. I think this is a Callahan move. He's going to love this pick. As far as Togiai, keep this simple and quick. Obviously, we know who he is. We all love him. I think his pass rushing is better than a lot of people give him credit for, honestly. But he certainly has a lot of work to do. To me, this is your long-term plan at D tackle. And they brought in the Florida State guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Into that room. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think Togiai is going to play a whole lot, but I see him on short yardage situations, and I think he's going to have a pretty big impact. So what do you guys think about these 2 picks right here? I don't care who starts.
I really didn't know what to think about Togiai. I was kind of surprised about it, but I mean, just somebody else to plug a hole, man. I mean, you can't go wrong with picking up another D tackle, especially with getting rid of Richardson. I mean, hey, got to bring somebody in to plug those holes. So, I think it was a pretty cool pickup. Get another Ohio State guy on the roster. So, hey.
I love the Tommy T pick. I think it's like the Owusu pick in the sense where it's a ton of value in the later rounds. Really surprised to see him last that long. He's honestly facing an uphill battle, I think, right now. Obviously, he'll make the roster and everything. But the amount of D tackles that we have picked up since Sheldon Richardson, I'm sorry.
You're thinking red wine.
I was thinking red wine for a minute. Two very different positions. But anyways, we have picked up a lot of guys in that D tackle position to, fill that void and hopefully fill that void. And a lot of them have great potential and a lot of them have good track records. So it'll be interesting to see how often he gets on the field. But again, like you said, Derek, a guy that will in the future, I think, produce a lot for us, but just not a lot this season. And then Hudson, again, you said it, Bill Callahan, I think that's the perfect way to just look at it, is that him and Chris Hubbard will be spending a lot of time together, and you might see Hudson get some time at guard and other positions, left tackle, right tackle, depending on injuries and such. We saw last year guys got flipped around a lot. So great pick there. I think there's a lot of potential, but again, just a guy that I don't see starting or making too much of an impact right away.
I've just seen some interesting stuff about Hudson, because I've seen a couple of different places actually rate him for where the Browns got him as being one of the better fits of the whole entire draft, which kind of took me by surprise, because it just seemed like a longevity play for our offensive line. But I think any quality offensive lineman, like you guys said, with inside Callahan's system, is a smart and proactive move by Andrew Berry. Togiai, I think we've kind of flipped around and did like a whole 180 from having, losing our two front guys up there, Richardson and Ogunjobi. And now we kind of have like a weird amount of depth there, just because we got a undrafted free agent, and we signed another interior defensive lineman from, I don't even know where, but we've signed two different guys since the Togiai pick. So I think, we have Malik Jackson, we have younger guys from previous drafts that are hopefully going to be, on the rise. So I think that might be a position of question mark there, but I think there's a good amount of rotation where if you could just hit on one of these guys that might not have played yet, I think that's going to be a win.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead here and wrap up as far as the rest of these picks, and then we'll get into our final grades and let you guys go. I know you need to get out of here pretty soon. The Fields pick, I think, was a little bit of a reach. I understand that's the body type they're going for, but I see him as a special teams guy long-term. Well, maybe not long-term, but you get what I'm saying. The Richard LeCounte pick, I think this is the one that everybody's sleeping on. I've been watching this guy for a while. As I told you guys before we started, this is a 5-star kid who went to Georgia. He did have an accident. I think he'll be fine. He had a really good pro day. But I think it's just a big school situation. We see this all the time with guys who go to these schools and they have better talent in front of them, and their name sometimes doesn't get called. I think the best example would be Jordan Fuller. I think this is kind of a similar situation where you get a guy later who's better than seems just because of where he played. And then the last one, Felton, first of all, people, get off my back. I called him a receiver. He played both. Who cares? This is a good potential Kareem Hunt replacement if he decides to go elsewhere. It's just kind of a pick him up and we'll see type deal. I think he will end up replacing Johnson just because of the fact that he can play receiver and running back. So yeah, that's my thoughts on those 3 picks. Somebody take it.
Cam, you wanna go in order again?
Yeah, we can. I'm really liking the player we just got off of talking about, Derek, and that much for versatility you can have on a team, man. I think it's the move in the right direction. So I like what Dearness Johnson did last year too. He had some pretty good runs, and we don't get paid to make those decisions. Andrew Berry does. So hey, if he sees something that's best, he should make the decision. But I think it's a great pickup to have somebody versatile like that, because you see what happened last year when we lost our whole receiving core due to COVID. We can have somebody like that come in and play receiver. Somebody that knows the offense. So I think that could be a pretty good,
It's a good point.
pretty good draft pick right there.
Yeah, for me, I'll go down the line. Tony Fields, that pick for me is absolutely the worst pick out of the whole Andrew Berry draft this time around. I honestly, and with these three guys, I think a lot of the things you'll be talking about is that 53-man roster cut and who's going to make it and who's not, because it's going to be hard. You look at it right now, it's going to be hard for that linebacker position to predict who's going to be the lone man out. I think there's, everyone, is starting to have beef with Mac Wilson, but then there's other guys that just don't produce. So we'll see what happens there. Tony Fields, for me, seems like a huge reach, like Derek was saying. Richard LeCounte, like Derek was also saying, great player, had an injury, an accident, but great player as well. Don't think he'll do anything this season. Obviously, special teamers, but he will definitely replace Redwine. Redwine's probably going to be out of here next year, and he'll probably replace him in that rotation of the three safeties, especially if someone goes down, because at some point we will be playing three safeties on the field with the talent that we have there. And then Demetric Felton, honestly, he's gonna to Cam's point about Dearness Johnson, he's gonna kick that man out of his position. He's gonna be the running back 3, I believe, because of his reason of being able to go into the slot and be able. I mean, he's super quick. You watch him; he reminds me a lot of Kareem. I just don't think he has the body type of a typical running back, and that's why people kind of sleep on him a little bit. So, a lot of future guys and a lot of special teamers.
So Fields, Tony Fields, he's going to be strictly special teams, even if he sees the field. I think Felton is interesting because it seems optimistic and it sounds like it probably won't happen. But, I mean, you could just imagine some schemes with both him and, Anthony Schwartz out there. Or just it gives Kevin Stefanski more options overall, which I always like. I'm always a big fan of. Richard LeCounte, I think, I agree with Derek, the most on this, that he might be a diamond in the rough just because it's, Redwine is probably not coming back. Like we talked about, he's going to be a question mark after this season. This is a Ronnie Harrison contract year, I believe. So, And we already paid, we kind of already committed to John Johnson. So you're probably not backing up the Brinks truck for Ronnie Harrison in my estimation. And if Grant Delpit could find his footing and, be that guy we know he could be, and we want to play three safeties, you don't need to have three, Pro Bowler safeties to make it work. You could have one or two good guys and your third guy could be average, but the other two guys could make them look, that much better or just help them. And, some guys play better in some systems than others. And I saw a highlight of Richard LeCounte blowing up Chase Claypool a couple of years ago. So I really like that. I did not know that about him. So that was good to me. I like that. I like LeCounte from Andrew Berry.
Yeah. So wrapping up here, well, first of all, I don't know where Justin went. He must have had an emergency. Hopefully it wasn't a Lamar Jackson situation. But anyway, first of all, raise your hand if you think the Browns are going to trade for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that's what I thought. So anyway, people stop talking about it. You look dumb. And that's not even the word I wanted to say, but I know YouTube will definitely demonetize if I say what I wanted to say. The Browns won't be trading for Aaron Rodgers. So you can go ahead and mark that down. Wrapping up here, what would you guys say you would grade the draft? I'll start off. I think it's an A-. You got a ton of talent. Obviously, the first two I think are going to be superstars. You got good long-term planning with Togiai and LeCounte and Felton. There were a few question marks. I would give it an A-. What about y'all?
I give it just a solid A because you're bringing in depth and you're bringing in quality players as well.
I gave it a B+ when me and Jeff talked about it. It's very similar to what Derek just said. You got two guys that will contribute right away to the team, and then you got a couple of dudes who are gadget players who might find their way onto the field every now and then, and then a lot of guys for the future and a lot of guys that'll play on special teams this year. So B+. I'm a little bit critical after the joke pick on a lot of these guys. A lot more so than I was on the day that we drafted them. Obviously, I'm just more about the we'll see. I'll look them up a little bit more just in case I don't know much about them. But obviously, I think it was a great draft. I think we got a lot of high-quality players for now and for later.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an A- as well. Sticking to what me and Justin talked about, I think an A- is pretty appropriate here. You fill immediate cornerback depth need. You fill a linebacker who is going to help you cover guys that we had a hard time covering last year, tight ends, and any quarterback with legs. And you have depth, and you did what you're supposed to do in later rounds. Pick for the future, especially with the roster as stacked as it is right now. You don't really have a whole lot of optimism when it comes to people who are going to be hard pressed to maybe even make the roster some of the later picks, like we're talking about with the 53 man. So I think there's a lot of good leadership. There's a lot of good vibes around this draft class. Everyone was welcoming each other. Everyone seemed happy to be in Cleveland. That was my favorite part of it.
Yep. So everybody, let us know what you would grade the draft. Like I said, I would give it an A-. Everybody here has given their grades. Thank you guys again for coming on. Appreciate it. Love talking to you guys as always. Glad we could work it out. You can find them at the Cleveland Pulse on YouTube. I'll be sure to link all that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything else you guys want to say?
No, thank you again, Derek, for having us. Cam, always good talking to you, man, and we appreciate it.
Yep, we love coming on here, boys. We appreciate it. Keep up the good work on y'all's end, and we'll keep putting out content as well. So we appreciate it.
Yep. So thanks everybody for watching. Like I said, let us know your thoughts, and we'll see you in the next video. Be sure to go check them out. Goodbye.